Another batch of sub EZAs are incoming, and they look like a lot of fun. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we have a batch of sub EZAs announced for the Golden Week campaign. These should be dropping in the part 2 of the campaign. We got their details and translations thanks to Minato, so shout out to him for putting those out on Twitter for us to take a look at. So we're going to dive right on and check out the 5 units that are sub EZA, and kind of talk about what we think this means and who might be the Dokkan Fest or LR EZA to go with part 2 along with these guys. So let's jump on in. Let's start with the STR Majin Buu Good. So this guy is used to be really great for World Tournament, right? On his super attack, he's greatly raising attack for 1 turn. He raises defense for the turn, causes supreme damage to all enemy with a medium chance for stunning. So he's going to be real good still for World Tournament, and really good in any event that there are multiple enemies that can be stunned. So like the Babadi's Forces red zone, if you still haven't cleared this guy's going to be really good for that. On his passive, like before, he changes Int Key Spheres to STR Key Spheres and has attack defense 150% to start. He gains attack defense 50% per STR Key Sphere obtained. He was a nuker before, he's a nuker now. He's a lot like that STR Piccolo. Now, he has an additional super attack when collecting 5 or more Key Spheres. And when there's a Majin Buu Saga ally attacking in the same turn, he reduces damage received by 30% when collecting 3 or more STR Key Spheres. He further reduces damage received by an additional 3% per Key Sphere obtained after the 4th. Wow! Okay, so on top of what he's still going to be, as a nuker, he's still probably going to be like slot 2 or slot 3, but on top of getting 30% damage reduction, he's also going to get 3 more per Key Sphere obtained. So let's like most people average 7 on a nuker, right? 11 if you're being generous. Somewhere between there is your average. So let's just say 10 Key Spheres, right? On 10 Key Spheres, you are getting 30% damage reduction, launching an additional attack that will further raise your defense, and you're getting an extra, 18% damage reduction on top of that. So that's going to be pretty darn good. I like this. It's going to be a really good filler option for Int Buu's team, right? This is pretty good. Okay, so already off to a good start. Let's take a look at the Int Hercule now. So I know this is the one that everybody's been waiting for, right? So he does have on his super attack, he is greatly raising attack and defense for the turn with a high chance to stun, causing supreme damage to all. I don't think that's... Did he have an AoE before? I don't think so. Was it an AoE? I don't remember. I don't think it was. I think that was left over from Minato translating the Buu, because I don't think that was to all enemies. But either way, it did stun. I know that much. Now, he does have a possibility of Tien's showing up for his super attack, and if Tien shows up, it's a 50% chance, and he basically increases the power of the super attack for 5 turns. So, I mean, it's doing the same thing it did before, it just is more powerful for 5 turns. Now, on his passive, he has attack and defense 150%. He has a high chance of evading enemies' attack, and when HP is 50% or more, he has an additional 10% chance to evade enemies' super attack. So 60% chance to evade. He reduces damage received by 50% up to 90%. The less HP remaining. So basically, the lower you are on HP, the greater his damage reduction is. The higher you are on HP, the greater his dodge is. And then he has a attack and defense 50% to and all enemies attack and defense minus 10% per Majin Buu Saga category ally attacking at the same turn. So if the enemy can be debuffed, he can reduce them by 30% attack and defense, which can be pretty helpful. So looking pretty good, right? They basically took what he did before and just made it that much better, as they usually do with these things. So he's looking pretty good. He's going to be a great filler option again for Goku, or even Buu's team, really, right? He's just a good dodge tank. He's not going to take damage because no matter what, he's going to have damage reduction and dodge. It's just the level of which he has each is going to vary depending on your defense. Or not defense, but HP. So looking really good. Moving on, we have 2 units I've been waiting for. We've got the Int Goten and the Tech Trunks. So these guys, they were already pretty good in before the EZA, so they have a chance to be really good here. So let's see what they're doing. On their 12 key, they are greatly raising attack and defense for the turn. This is the Int Goten, by the way, and causing supreme damage and raising allies attack for 40% for the turn. Very nice. So, that's going to buff, right, whoever's in his slot too. So he has attack and defense 180%. He reduces damage damage received by 50%. He has an attack 120% and reduces damage received by an additional 30%. So 70% damage reduction when performing a super attack if you have an ally whose name includes Trunks attacking in the same turn. And obviously you're going to want them together. All allies in the Kamehameha category get key 1 and attack 50% and a chance of performing a critical hit 20% as the first attacker in the turn. And all allies in the Kamehameha category also get key 2 attack 70% and chance to perform critical hit 30% as the second attacker in the turn. He gets key 3 and attacked 120% when performing a super attack and a high chance to perform a critical hit as the third attacker in the turn. So right, he has a buff based on which slot he's in, but I want to see what the Trunks does before I kind of piece this all together. So Trunks doing the same thing, greatly raising attack and defense for the turn, causing supreme damage and raises allies attack 40%. So 12 key, his super is attack 40%. Oh, both of them are attack 40%. Okay. He reduces damage received 50%. He gets attack and defense 180%. He has attack 120%, reduced damage received by an additional 30% when performing super attack. Yep. Okay. So it's basically the same. They basically have the same passive. So right, okay, so I understand how this works. So basically whichever one of them you put in slot 1, he is going to give the slot 2 passive to the other, and then vice versa, right? So they're going to be buffing each other, basically, is how that works, right? So when Trunks is in slot 1, he's giving Goten 50% attack, whereas Goten, who will then be in slot 2, he's giving Trunks 70% attack, and then vice versa, right? So it's like, I get what they're trying to do here. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so I think they're going to be pretty decent together. They're going to be a pretty solid rotation. We'll have to see what that start of turn defense looks like, but with 70% damage reduction, they should be okay. All right, so final one, we have the Fizz Majin Buu Gotenks. Kind of a surprise, but I guess it was gonna come eventually. On his super attack, he is greatly raising attack defense for the turn, causes supreme damage to the enemy, and seals super attack. He lowers superclass enemies' attack by 30% and defense by 80%. He is key 1 and attack and defense 100%, attack and defense 150% when performing super attack, and he has key 2 and attack and defense 100% and reduces damage received by 30% when all allies attacking in the same turn are Majin Buu Saga category allies. He performs a critical hit when the target enemy is attack down or defense down status. So he's definitely going to be one of those units that's going to be very, very useful if the enemy can be debuffed. So this could be a lot in Super Battle Road, Extreme Super Battle Road, and some of these various red zones, like the Cell Max. If you can actually get to where he's at, that he can start being debuffed, you're gonna probably see some use out of this guy. Although him being an STR in the may kind of be a little scary there in the stage 2 for the Cell Max. So all in all, the batch looks pretty good. The STR Boo looks pretty good, and Hercule is doing what he already did, just a little bit better. These two look really good together, and I really, really want to try them out and see how they are together. But this is a batch of sub EZAs, and they're not being released with the part 1 EZA Dokkan Fest, whether the Gohan or the Buu, which makes me think that these guys are designed for part 2, which means usually when there's a batch EZA, there's a Dokkan Fest corresponding with it, or possibly an LR EZA. Now, when we look at the Majin Buu Saga category, there aren't really any LRs that could possibly see an EZA who hasn't already EZA'd, right? These guys have EZA'd. This guy has EZA'd. Buu is a bit too soon to receive his EZA, so he is extremely unlikely. The AGL Buu here, Goten and Trunks have EZA'd. Like, there's basically no one here that could EZA in terms of LR. Everybody who could has. So what does that leave? Well, okay, actually, there's this possibility, but I don't think that he's going to be the case because he more represents sort of the final fight of the Majin Buu arc, which this whole campaign seems to be focused on Gohan versus Buu and Goku versus Buu, so I think he might be unlikely, which means we're probably going to have some of the TURs, which means another possible Dokkan Fest EZA. I think it's highly, I don't want to say it's highly unlikely we get another Dokkan Fest, but I think it's the less likely outcome. I think we're actually going to see something else instead. But if we did get a Dokkan Fest EZA, these two are probably the only ones that are left, right? These two. I think they might be saving these guys for another type of celebration, but if there were to be a Dokkan Fest, it would definitely have to be these guys, as they're the only ones left from Buu Saga, TURs, DFEs that haven't EZA'd. So I hope it's them, but I sincerely doubt it. What I do think we will get in part 2, however, is more than likely a Super EZA, and I think it's pretty much going to be either him, knowing now that part 2 LR is an Ultimate Gohan. It could be him, although we're going to run into some linking issues if that's the case, but you know, they've done worse, so I could see it being the Ultimate Gohan, but if not, I could definitely see them buffing Buu's team by giving Kid Buu and a Super EZA, or even Int Buuhan. In fact, I do think he might be the most likely candidate out of all of them, simply because most of the new unit is buffing Gohan and the super class side of things. It would make sense that then the Super EZA buff the extreme side of things to kind of balance things out, since after all of these, right, are kind of balanced out for super versus extreme. So could definitely see them doing something like that. So guys, that is it for the video. That is the sub EZAs that are upcoming in part 2 of this year's Golden Week campaign. They all look pretty good. I definitely think this guy is probably the weakest, but he can have some value. Buu is probably the best, and I'm curious to see how these guys handle, because I think they could be quite good. But if you guys like the video and you want to let me know how you think about these guys, let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to hit that like button. And if nothing else, guys, thanks for watching, and aloha.